Hello and welcome to Theta Sigma's Doctor Who podcast number 40. Now, by the time most of you will have listened to this podcast, you'll have seen the Day of the Doctor, and I'm sure you'll be full of what you want to say about it, both good and bad. But that's the two reasons that I won't be reviewing it in this week's podcast. One, because it will only be most and not all of you who've seen it so far, and I don't want to spoil it for those who haven't yet seen it. And two, because I'd love to know what you thought of it. Please post your comments on the Facebook page, Theta Sigma's Doctor Who podcast, or you can email me at respectthething@outlook.com. If you'd like to leave audio feedback, that'd be brilliant, but please try and keep it under 2 minutes. So I'm looking forward to hearing your comments, both positive and constructively negative. Here's to a full feedback session next week. But on with today's podcast, and you may remember that I asked in last week's show and on the Facebook page how you would be celebrating Doctor Who's 50th anniversary. Several of you replied, so here we go with your anniversary happenings.
Come here, you scrumptious little beauty. A box?
Doctor, what is it?
I've got mail.
First to share their celebrations with us was Michael Doyle, who said, "Here in the States, BBC America is showing Doctor Who from today until Sunday around the clock, but I'll be holding my own marathon." Thanks for that, and in fact those of you who were on the page on the Saturday will actually know that that's exactly what I did whilst posting my thoughts on the shows that I'd watched. Kat Armstrong commented, "I'm going to Cineworld in my new 11th Doctor t-shirt and fez for a massive 3D epic. Then I'm going to stuff myself at Frankie and Benny's, and I'm taking a non-Whovian." Good to see someone spreading the word there, Kat. Carl Triggs, who runs the Facebook page Don't Blink, said, "I'm going to the cinema to give out prizes and take photos. Don't Blink has joined with my local Odeon. Hope you had a brilliant evening, Carl." And finally, Thomas Hanks posted, "We're having a private screening with close cosplay friends, and then as TARDIS is throwing a big Doctor Who carnival. Should be spectacular." And I hope it was, and I hope you've all enjoyed your 50th anniversary celebrations. So thanks for sharing them with us. It sounds as though everyone had a really good time. Now for the rest of this week's show, and I was wondering what I could do in celebration of Doctor Who's 50th anniversary that wasn't already being done either by the BBC or by other podcasts. In the end I settled on taking a look at the current TARDIS incumbent Matt Smith. Those of you who've been listening since the podcast started way back in January will know that each month I've been looking at one Doctor and the actor who played him, and it seemed appropriate to bring this series to a conclusion with this 50th anniversary episode. So here we go then, with the amazingness that is Matt Smith.
Come on, then! The Doctor will see you now!
Matthew Robert Matt Smith was born on the 28th of October 1982. He's an English actor and director, best known as the 11th Doctor in Doctor Who, for which he received a BAFTA Award nomination in 2011. Smith initially aspired to be a professional footballer, but spondylosis forced him out of the sport. After joining the National Youth Theatre and studying drama and creative writing at the University of East Anglia, he became an actor in 2003, performing in plays like Murder in the Cathedral, Fresh Kills, The History Boys, and On the Shore of the Wide World in London theatres. Extending his repertoire to West End theatre, he's since performed in the stage adaptation of Swimming with Sharks with Christian Slater, followed a year later by a critically acclaimed performance as Henry in That Face. Before his role in Doctor Who, Smith's first television role came in 2006 as Jim Taylor in the BBC adaptation of Philip Pullman's The Ruby in the Smoke and The Shadow in the North, while his first major role in television came as Danny in the 2007 BBC series Party Animals. Smith, who was announced as the 11th incarnation of the Doctor in January 2009, is the youngest person to play the character in the series.
I'll fix it. I'm good at fixing rock. Call me the Rockmeister. No, I'm the Doctor. Don't call me the Rockmeister.
Smith was born and brought up in Northamptonshire, where he attended Northampton School for Boys. He planned to be a professional football player, having played for the youth teams of Northampton Town, Nottingham Forest and Leicester City. But after a serious back injury ruined his career, his drama teacher introduced him to acting by signing him up as the 10th juror in an adaptation of 12 Angry Men without his consent. Although he took part in the play, Smith refused to attend a drama festival for which his teacher had also signed him up, as he saw himself as a football player and didn't view acting as socially acceptable. His drama teacher, however, persisted and eventually persuaded him to join the National Youth Theatre in London. After leaving school, Smith studied drama and creative writing at the University of East Anglia, graduating in 2005. His first theatre role as part of the National Youth Theatre were Thomas Becket in Murder at the Cathedral and Bassoon in The Master and Margarita. His role in the latter earned him an agent and his first professional jobs, Fresh Kills and On the Shore of the Wide World. His new professional roles led him to seek an agreement with his university so that he could graduate without attending lectures in his final year. Smith's first major television role came in the television series Party Animals, a BBC television drama series about fictional parliamentary advisers and researchers in Westminster. In it, Smith portrays Danny Foster, a parliamentary researcher to Joe Porter, a Labour politician and junior Home Office minister. Within the series' narrative, he attempts to balance his affections for Kirsty Mackenzie, his intern, while trying to prevent Porter's imminent decline.
There are fixed points through time where things must always stay the way they are. This is not one of them. This is an opportunity, a temporal tipping point. Whatever happens today will change future events, create its own timeline, its own reality. The future pivots around you, here, now. So do good for humanity and for Earth.
Stephen Moffat said on Smith's casting as the Doctor, "The Doctor is a very special part, and it takes a very special actor to play him. You need to be old and young at the same time, a boffin and an action hero, a cheeky schoolboy, and the wise old man of the universe. As soon as Matt walked through the door and blew us away with his bold and brand new take on the Time Lord, we knew we had our man." Matt Smith was a relatively unknown actor compared to the actors then speculated about possibly taking on the role. These included Patterson Joseph, David Morrissey, Sean Pertwee, James Nesbitt, Russell Tovey, and Robert Carlyle, amongst others. Smith himself was one of the earliest actors to audition for the role, performing on the very first day. The production team, consisting of incoming producer Stephen Moffat and Piers Wenger, immediately singled him out based on his performance. At 26 years old, Smith was 3 years younger than Peter Davison was at the time of his casting as the Doctor in 1981, and younger than any other actor suggested for the role. After 3 weeks of auditions, Moffat and Wenger agreed that it had always been Matt, and approached him to accept the role. The BBC were cautious about casting him because they felt that a 26-year-old couldn't play the Doctor adequately. Wenger shared the same sentiment, but thought that Smith had proven his acting ability in Party Animals, which Wenger thought highlighted Smith's mercurial qualities. Some fans of the show believed that Smith was inexperienced and too young for the role, while others supported him by citing his demonstrated acting ability. For his performance in his first series, he was nominated in the Outstanding Drama Performance category of the National Television Awards. Smith said of his character, "The Doctor is excited and fascinated by the tiniest of things, by everything, by every single thing. That's what's wonderful about him as a character. It's why children like him, I think. Because he doesn't dismiss anything. He's not cynical. He's open to every single facet of the universe." In June 2010, Smiths appeared on stage with Orbital at the Glastonbury Festival and performed with them a version of the Doctor Who theme. He also hosted the Doctor Who prom at the Royal Albert Hall on the 24th and 25th of July 2010. And on the morning of the 26th of May 2012, he carried the Olympic torch in Cardiff, an activity which was noted by Doctor Who fans for its resemblance to the 2006 episode Fear Her. On the 1st of June 2013, the BBC announced that Smith would be leaving Doctor Who at the end of the 2013 Christmas special.
Hello, I'm the Doctor. Basically, run.
But what of the 11th Doctor himself? 11 is often portrayed as a brash and lively man who is rather lonely and very aware of his reputation as a fierce enemy to his adversaries, but he has a great deal of affection for his loved ones. He is at times childlike, arguably downright childish, which allows him to connect very well with children. However, there are also times when he acts his age, such as when he retires in Victorian London after the loss of Amy and Rory and becomes a grumpy and solitary man who refuses to interact with others until he's charmed by Clara Oswald. Unlike his two most immediate predecessors, this Doctor seems ignorant of the details of human popular culture, beyond a few references to classic literature, and is often seen embarrassing his companions with his attempts to be cool. He even shows ignorance of adult activities, such as sharing a bed, by providing bunk beds in the TARDIS for the married Amy and Rory, and drinking wine before spitting it back into the glass after trying it. He's also inept at responding to romantic advances, acting awkwardly when River Song and Amy try to seduce him. But there are times when he behaves more maturely in romantic situations, frequently flirting with River and eventually marrying her despite his usual discomfort with romance. This Doctor is arguably the most manipulative and secretive incarnation since Seven, and is not above using subtle and almost Machiavellian schemes in order to outwit his enemies, such as when he uses the Tesselector to escape from his prophesied death, or when he turns a spoonhead against its owner by disguising it as himself. In The Girl Who Waited, he manipulates an older version of Amy into helping him and Rory rescue a younger version of Amy, and then locks her outside of the TARDIS, leaving her to die to avoid a paradox. He often keeps important information from his companions, such as in The Rebel Flesh, when he reveals that he'd known Amy to be a flesh avatar for some time. River Song states that the Doctor's enemies are deeply afraid of him, also saying in Silence in the Library that her Doctor, the 11th, could cause whole armies to turn and run away. The 11th Doctor in fact does this at least twice, first in the Pandorica Opens and later in A Good Man Goes to War. Although the Doctor puts on a facade of cheerful arrogance, he secretly believes himself to be a bad person, and often displays self-loathing for the things that he's done throughout his life, as seen in Amy's Choice, when he determined that the Dream Lord was a version of himself by surmising that there was only one person that hated him as much as the Dream Lord did. Although countless people owe him their lives, as pointed out by River in The Wedding of River Song, the Doctor blames himself for the ruining of many other lives. This Doctor shows rabid curiosity in finding out how things seemingly impossible can happen, seeking the answer to how Clara Oswald can exist as the same person in multiple eras in The Snowman. The 11th Doctor is often slow to realise things, admitting that he believes this is due to either his age or being too stupid to remember the details.
Anachronistic electricity, keep out signs, aggressive stares. Has someone been peeking at my Christmas list?
And that's it for this week. As always, thanks for listening, and don't forget you can now post your thoughts on the Day of the Doctor, either on Theta Sigma's Doctor Who podcast page on Facebook, or you can email me at respectthething@outlook.com with your comments or your audio feedback. So until next week, when I'll be reviewing The Day of the Doctor and finding out what you thought about it.
Well, goodbye, my boy. You did quite well. Quite well. It's reassuring to know that my future is in safe hands.
Thank you for listening to Theta Sigma's Doctor Who podcast. Doctor Who and its associated shows are all copyright and property of the BBC, and no infringement is intended.